No trans man out there with common sense would run around saying that they know what it's like to be raised as a biological male, as a cis male. I'm sure you'll claim you know some, but I don't believe you. I was raised as a little girl. One that would probably hiss at you, but a little girl nonetheless. Not only do I admit that I have absolutely no idea what it's like for cis dudes growing up, but I was extremely vocal about this when the Me Too movement started. Because trans men like me were just tossed away like we ain't shit. The majority of us lived most, if not all, of our childhood as little girls, but when it came to that movement, it's not your time. And yeah, that didn't sit right with me. But while I don't know what it's like to, be raised as a boy, be treated like a boy by society, have the same expectations, I do know what it's like to live in society as a mother and be perceived as a mother. And I also know what it's like to live everyday life being perceived in society as a father. And you'd think that transphobes like you would take just a moment to learn more about somebody before they make comments like this. Because you'd learn that not only have I observed and lived through these differences, the difference in like reactions by society, the different stigmas, but I've also always been vocal about them, even if people didn't want to hear it. Prime example. My son is a very affectionate kid in general, but he was born with a muscle disorder called hypotonia. Now, what that means is in some areas of his body, he has low muscle tone. Primarily with him, it's his jaw and his core muscles, so like his stomach, his back. Because of this, I mean, obviously, like most kids, like he's just affectionate towards me because I'm his main parent. But also paired with the hypotonia, like he tends to be very like leaning like on people, like it's hard for him to like hold himself up sometimes even now like 10 years later. So if you see us in public, typically he's like, hanging off me or leaning against me, and that's because, it's hard for him to support himself sometimes. So back then, when I looked like this, and honestly even now sometimes, because I don't always pass when I have a clean shaven face and everything, when he's very affectionate and like, he's leaning on me, if he's hugging me, if he's like trying to sit on my lap, nobody bats an eye. I'm just hiding my kid's face because he's a little older in this picture, but looking like this, when he's like, affectionate in the same ways towards me, I started to notice like I got really weird and concerned looks. And that made me very cautious about allowing my child to like show any type of like affection towards me in public. And I'm just talking like normal stuff, like, leaning on me, putting his head on me, like hugging me, sitting on my lap, like, just normal shit. Because people would look at me like, like it was very abnormal. In fact, I'll never forget one time I was at an optometry appointment with my kid, and everybody just presumed I was his dad. And this woman came up to me and she was like, "Aren't you such a sweet father taking your kid to an eye appointment?" And I mean, she was so nice and everything. But like, I would hope a father would take his kid to a freaking eye appointment. Like, in some aspects, like, society has set the bar so low when it comes to fatherhood, but in other ways, they've set it so high that it's just not achievable. Because think about it, we're always telling men you need to show your emotions more, you need to be more vulnerable, you need to show insecurities, show that you're a compassionate, loving individual. But don't do it too much and don't do it the wrong way, because then you're a fucking weirdo. It's just you're barking up the wrong tree. Men like you have a lot of rage in your system and you just need to take it out on somebody. And the news is telling you to take it out on people like me. People you've never spoken to. People you obviously haven't, learned one thing about. Instead of just being quiet for 3 seconds and taking in a valuable message. I don't know what it's like to grow up like you did, but I have seen both sides of the fence in some areas. And I've been vocal about how it's not fair on both sides. Whether you love me or you can't stand me, one thing you cannot deny is I do have a unique perspective that it's very rare to obtain. And there are a lot of situations where women, honestly, they get the shit end of the stick by society, but there are some situations where men do as well. And I've talked greatly about both. You have a good day.